Bam. Hello. It's been a while. Let me check the settings because I just don't know. Oh, you can do that now. Interesting. That's good. Is this good? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. How are you? It has been a long time. I think the last stream I did was July 1st. We're doing a couple of strange things today. First, we're leaving the comment section open to anyone that wants to come in the chat. So, will we get spam? Hopefully, because I haven't gotten anything in the chat now in months, and it would be nice to just get some spam. So I've left that open. We have lots of things to talk about. I don't know where to start. I think what I want to do is check my screen. Oh yeah. So a reasonable question. Well, we'll get into that. Let's set the stage for today. So what we're going to do first is we're going to talk about where I've been. Second thing we're going to talk about is some fun stories I've had from my time away, and then we're going to talk about neighbors. Elon Musk. That guy's a genius. And I don't mean a genius in he's the smartest man in the world or anything, but I mean just some of the things he does are just so smart. So smart. And he's got a rare ability to do it. And it's just like I watch and I'm impressed. Then we're going to get into some articles, some neighbor talk. We'll talk about the rates and the mortgage rates, see what they're doing. And from there, I don't know. I'm a little bit behind in my articles because I for the show, I put together stuff as I go. And then if I don't get to something today, I just put it on tomorrow's show. And, I haven't had any time to research or anything. So let's just talk about what's going on, where I've been. Why haven't I streamed since the 1st of July? And I think that's right. I'm going to check real quick just so that so I don't lead you astray. And I wanted to talk about something that was really weird. I think I should talk about that first. But let me make sure that I was right on when the last time was I did a video. It's not been on purpose. I'm really, really upset with myself for the delay because, it was the first. That was literally the last time I did a video was the first, which is just crazy. I can't believe the time has passed. So, and just like that, what I was going to talk about disappears in my head. I had it all set up and it's gone. So the question I found it again. So I've been working really hard. This is just to start the show. I've been working very hard on or I've been thinking about an issue that has confused me for some time. And as I get going with the live streams, I hope to be able to talk to people, through my streams. And I think there's always been this complaint about what one would call the mainstream media that on either side, it doesn't seem like during an interview, the interviewer and the interviewee, it never seems like the interviewer in real time will call out the BS of the interviewee. And I've thought about it for a while now, and I'm trying to kind of formulate why that might be. And so I just wanted to go over an example for you now. So if first of all, there's this, I feel like there's a kind of not a rule, but a courtesy extended when you do an interview. So if you ask somebody to come on your stream, or if you ask somebody to come similarly on your show in the media, I would think that that's as a courtesy. Now, do they pay for interviews? I don't know. I suspect people get paid in different ways. They get paid in exposure or something, but I refuse to believe that everybody just jumps on television because it's of no benefit to them. So then let's just say that, so there's already that courtesy extended. You wouldn't interview somebody. I mean, I'd say 90% of the time, you're not going to interview somebody just to just beat them over the head, like club them like a baby seal. I mean, it's just not something that you would do. I mean, if you wanted to look like a good human as an interviewer, so you've got that built-in kind of deference to the person speaking, the interviewee. And then I was thinking about kind of how my life goes, and then the people who I would want to interview or I'd want to talk with. And then that goes something like this. So I spend the majority of my time talking about real estate, or practicing real estate. I mean, that's what I do. I mean, I'm looking at listings, I'm taking people out on showings, I'm writing offers, checking with, mortgage people, checking with people within the industry that I know that I think have a valuable opinion. So that's really probably the majority of my day every day. And so if I ever got into a situation where I was interviewing someone and we were talking about, for instance, Sri Lanka, which is just, the government has just been overthrown. If my person that I brought on was an expert in Sri Lanka, I don't think I would be able to really push back on anything they said, even if it was incorrect. Even if I read all the books I could read before the interview started, I don't see how I'm going to be able to call out the BS on Sri Lanka. First of all, I have no idea. Really, I mean, I know it's like in the ocean or something. I don't know. I don't even know where it is right now. I can't picture it on a map. I'd have to look it up. I suspect I know what people are fighting about over there, but I'm not 100% positive because I have no way of knowing. So you run into this, maybe a bias of an expert bias. That is that what someone tells you, if they say they're an expert in a subject and you have no background in the subject, you don't understand, then you've got that going for you. You're not even able to call it out. So now we've got two problems. We've got this deference given, and then we've got this expertise that we can't really challenge because we're not aware. Now, I believe it becomes easier if you have an adversarial relationship with the person you're interviewing in some ways. So let's just take a couple of examples. First, politics. So if you're a Democrat as the interviewer, you already have your talking points that have been given to you over your lifetime. So anytime like a Republican would say one thing, you're definitely going to be able to just call them out on it right away, because that's what your tribe does. And I'm not trying to be political in the sense that it would also happen in the reverse. A Republican would be able to pounce all over a Democrat if, and I said pounce, and if some of you out there know what that means, but yeah, you would have this bias that would allow you to kind of come at the interviewee. Now, that can also be transcended by, like, say, sports. I mean, I don't want to use football because I'm done with that, at least pro football. Maybe hockey. When we used to have the Central Division or the Norris Division, the Blues played against the Blackhawks, and we also had Detroit, and I think Toronto was in there, and maybe Minnesota, but it's been a while. I don't remember exactly. But anyway, if someone was, from the Chicago team, well, obviously the enemy, me being in St. Louis, and so that would be a way. Like if they said something about the game, I would say, even though we watched the same game, I would be able to push back on the interviewer as the interviewee. So then it got to a situation where, I can see how it happens all the time. And once you see it, it's like, oh my gosh, what I thought was, real isn't really real anymore. That is, there is no order. There is no pushback, and the pushback that you get it's in real time, but it's not going to be of high quality because, as I'm doing the live stream, hundreds of thoughts are flying through my head. Okay. And as you're watching the live stream, same thing. And then the people that are being interviewed are thinking the same way. There's just so much going on, so much static that it's possible that even when the interviewee answers a question, they could have made just an honest mistake. Now, there's this issue of hyperbole. So take any issue, like let's go to politics and take any issue. Someone will scream, "You're literally killing X," or "You're killing Y," or "This policy, does this to people from 100 years ago." It's always hyperbole. And what I don't understand on that is if you know that someone is speaking using hyperbolic terms, why wouldn't you call that out unless you were part of it, unless you were friendly to it? And we kind of know what all the buzzwords are, don't we? There's certain things you say if you want to brand somebody something. If you want to, you want to tell people, who you are, you say, well, this person believes this, this, and this. Therefore, they must be the most evil people ever. Their profession is this. Therefore, they have, something about them that's no good. But I think as we move forward with those biases, the three that I mentioned, we have to do better with, hyperbole, not knowing the topic, and then not being able to respond in real time due to the nature of the format. Even with those three things, I think we should do a little bit better with our interviews. I honestly think most of the time when I watch an interview on TV from anyone, this is on regular television, that it is so staged and so fake and such a opportunity to broaden one's reach that it's really not. It's not going to be a great interview, and that's why I think that the podcast is a format has come up, and that's why I think that shows like mine could be fantastic. Now, am I saying that my show's not where it needs to be? I'm quite clear on that, but we have to. I think we have to start calling things out in interviews if we're aware of them, if we see them coming. It's not an issue of like slander, it's not an issue of confrontation. It's just an issue of like, look, you can't just use hyperbole saying you're killing a whole population or something like that when that's not even close to what's happening. If it's a joke, hopefully people can catch it, but we have to improve on real-time interviews that, aren't propaganda pieces. That's where I'm at on that. Now, you can disagree with me, put it in the chat. We can talk about it. You can disagree with me, put it in the comments. So, I wanted to do that, but then the next thing is we're 14 minutes in. You may have stumbled on my live stream. It may be a year from now. We're in July 9th, 2022. You have no idea who I am. You don't know what you just listened to and why and what's going on. So I think it's important that I introduce myself. My name is John Schink. I'm a real estate broker in St. Louis, Missouri. I help people buy homes and I help sellers sell theirs. That's what I do. That's my day-to-day business. Now, within that, I like to talk about, I read a ton of real estate news. I talk about real estate all the time. And I like to give advice. I like to try and dissect what articles are saying and present them in a way where you get some sort of experience, some sort of deeper understanding from the article than what you might get had you never been involved in real estate. That's my goal. Real estate commentary, the industry commentary, the way things are written versus the way things are. It's really fascinating to me when I read articles, especially real estate related, because a lot of times they're written by people that aren't actually practicing real estate, or they did practice real estate 20 years ago, but they're not doing it currently. And they seem to think that because they've seen all the data, that they understand exactly what a buyer or seller is thinking, or that they can somehow relate and somehow put off actionable news that would be of any sort of assistance to a buyer or seller. And so it's not that I want to counter that. It's if I see something that makes sense and that's true, yeah, let's talk about it. If I see something that looks absolutely terrible and doesn't make any sense, let's talk about that too. Also, real estate is highly location specific. So what we do traditionally here in St. Louis is going to be vastly different than what you would do in California, vastly different than what you would do in New York City, vastly different than what you would do in Florida, Minnesota. I mean, it's just different. And so the thing about this is I'm only licensed in Missouri. I only look at things through a Missouri lens. However, if you know this, you have some sort of perspective going into where you're working or where you're looking to buy or sell. And that's really the key. Now, will there be sensationalism? Will there be hyperbole? Probably not. I don't have any real desire to cause arguments within the real estate world. You're also not going to get a lot of endorsements from me for products. Simply because I've been in the business now since 2009, and at least I've had my license since 2009. I was flipping houses before that, but I haven't found a lot of technology that works. I really haven't. For the money, I mean, the technology doesn't work, and that's something that I think is also fascinating. Is this? Everyone says, I'm just trying to put it out there. Everyone says that real estate, the agent will be conquered by technology. That is, we will go extinct because the technology is going to make us irrelevant. And that is it's a nice thing to say to get money, to get financing, to get funding for your project. But unless you've ever worked with a buyer or a seller, not just you going to buy a private house, but you actually working in the industry, you have no idea the trials, tribulations, heartaches that buyers and sellers go through during the process. And I mean, you may say, well, I did because I myself sold my house, or I bought a house and I know everything about it. Well, how many times did you do that? Once, twice, 5 times, 10 times? When? How long in difference has there been between? And I'll just give you this example. Look, I'll have kids that are, I say kids and not as a negative, but people between the ages of say 22 and 30 go out and look at houses with me, and they bring their parents, and their parents give them advice that's based on real estate in the 1980s. It's like the market is nowhere close to what it was in the 80s. The world has changed. The business has changed. But what doesn't change is that it's of course a people business. It's a business where you need to know a lot of people, and then you got to hope that they find a compelling reason to choose you as their agent. Either they think you're professional, or you get along with them, or something. There's some sort of motivation on the buyer or seller side to work with you specifically. If you don't have that connection, no one will work with you. So one way we would build that connection is like, for instance, as a buyer's agent, we do what we say. Like if we say something like, I'll get you this offer tonight, then you get the offer in that night. You do what you say you're going to do, and you follow through. You build trust. You don't build trust so that you can rip someone off. You build trust so that everyone in the transaction can feel like, their words are important. They can feel that they're important, and that we can work together to achieve an outcome that everybody can be happy with, or at least an outcome that is the best possible outcome given the set of circumstances we find ourselves in. And so that has nothing to do with technology. Because I can send 1,000 emails to people, it doesn't fix the problem of I need to build trust and I need to follow through on what I say I'm going to do. Technology doesn't help that. Technology doesn't help if you can't afford a house payment. Okay, so like right now, if you're a buyer and you're making an offer and someone else is, and you're using a mortgage and someone else is using cash, you don't have as good of a chance of getting that house as the person using cash. There's no amount of technology that fixes that. However, there are market forces. And so what we're seeing now in the marketplace is there are companies specifically built that will allow you to make an all cash offer on a property. And then it gets turned into a mortgage over time and all this stuff. However, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, it's just cash versus a mortgage. It's not, the technology isn't, there's nothing that the agent can bring to the table technologically that's going to fix that problem. Like unless I'm earning money for my buyers and to the point that they, will be able to afford something in cash, and that doesn't happen. So it doesn't make any sense. So then it gets stuck with two other areas, I would say. There's a couple others ones. So there's transaction coordination. So many tech companies have gotten involved with the transaction and how do we work through that? Companies as long as 10 years ago were showing me, transaction programs that would basically say, like, you're on step one and you need to do 30 steps to be done with this, and then you can get yourself paid a commission check. And what I found with those is things move faster than the actual transaction software. So that is, let's say I negotiate a contract to purchase. I'm representing the buyer. I need to have all my dates in the calendar as soon as the offer is accepted. Well, will the transaction software do that? No, because it's based on the offer that we wrote. And so all that has to be input. Now, once that's input, does that do anything for us? Well, no, because it doesn't really matter. So for instance, let's say you've been given a 10-day inspection period for the property as the buyer. So within those 10 days, you can order an inspection. Okay. So you do that. All right. All you need to know is the day that you have to have it done by. And so, like if you're me, I try to get the inspection done as early as possible so that in case there is something else that comes up, we can bring in another expert, quote unquote, to look at the issue. So technology is not really helping there. It did help in the management of foreclosures during 2007, 2008, 2009. It helped in this sense. Larger corporations, lenders and foreclosure, lawyers and things of that nature did need some way to keep everything together. And so those companies who are already used to using technology in reporting, that is, the bank owns the asset, but they may be in a different state, and they need you to sell the property. They need to have some way to communicate with you. And that would be the way to communicate in that situation. So I know people that were successful because they had software in that space. And then finally, the final space to me is the marketing of your business to others. Now, I do not feel like I was a late adapter to YouTube. I've been on YouTube. I just didn't understand how to work it. Okay, so what I used to do originally is I would have property videos that I would post on my Deerwood Realty website and my YouTube channel. And what would happen is no one would watch it. So I really didn't get anywhere, to be honest. It didn't really help me. And so then I started doing podcasts. I started doing live streams. After the podcast for a while, I really just gravitated to the live stream, and it's something that I really enjoy doing. So the fact that I'd gone 8 days just earlier this week without a live stream it just kills me. But anyway, the technology does work in marketing. So let's look at some technology in the marketing space. Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com, Facebook Facebook paid ads to some degree. Those places you can drive traffic to your website so that you can, you can get somewhere. That does make sense. That is real. Zillow is a tech company. I mean, that's what they are. And so I think when people put money into brokerages, like for instance, eXp Realty and Compass are considered technologically advanced brokerages. Redfin 100% uses their internet presence to build their business. Those are technology. The first two, Compass and eXp, they're financed by people that don't mind losing money for years until somebody gets something right. So they're not like my business where I actually need to make a profit from time to time or else I can't stay in business. But technology is sexy. That's what you need to do in this space. If you're in there, is you need to be able to say, like, from a technological perspective, here's something we're going to do that's going to disrupt the market, and then you will get funding. But the base business is still about people. It's still about the relationship with people. Can you buy a house on your own without an agent? Absolutely. Can you sell a house, without an agent? Absolutely. Should you? The vast majority of people probably should not. Based on what I see in the marketplace, based on how difficult it is to determine, a house that's worth buying versus a house that may look really, really good, but have lots and lots of skeletons, it benefits you on the buyer side to always have an agent, and it benefits you to have a seller's agent as well, a listing agent as well. In this market, you think, well, gosh, if you just put the listing up, somebody's going to buy it tomorrow. Well, yes and no. What we're seeing in St. Louis right now is a bit of a transition. As market rates had moved up to 6% or higher, 30-year fixed, it has caused somewhat of a thaw. Not as bad, though, to me, as the inflation. Inflation really, really hurts everyone, and it's hurting us in real estate as well. It wasn't so bad when gas was, lower than $2. I mean, that was great. But now with it being over $5, that's, if you're driving a pickup, you're a couple $100 out a month. That could have gone to a house payment. So to me, it's the inflation that has caused the issues and not the raising of the rates. But anyway, I just want you to understand, like, technology is a blessing on some things. 20 years ago, I wasn't going to be able to put a live stream together. 20 years ago, I wasn't going to be able to do a podcast. Okay. But it's also this endless pot of gold for people that use technology in real estate to try and say that, we're going to go through this digital transformation and no one's ever going to buy real estate the same again. That's just simply not true. It's just not true. And so here we are. So I wanted to get back to, we're changing subjects, just so you know. I wanted to get back to where I've been and what's been going on with me. So, streaming is not my number one job. And the reason why it's not my number one job is I don't make any money doing it. I don't have a throng of people that watch my live streams that want to, they see me on the screen and they're like, hey, I want to use that guy as my real estate agent. It doesn't happen. I also don't have a lot of I don't have a lot of subscribers. I don't have a lot of, I don't even have 1,000 subscribers. So I can't even really do anything. I can't get anywhere. So that's quite frustrating, but I'm here. And so um, when the business calls, I have to go and do it. Like, so right now I'm representing a buyer buying a home. I'm representing a seller selling a home, and I'm also working with my assistant to. She's new, and we're just kind of going through and learning how to do stuff. And so that has taken a lot of my time. That's taken a lot more time than I would have thought. I put in the listing yesterday. It took me almost, I started about 8. I didn't get done until 1 just on putting the listing in the system. And then after that, I went out and put the sign in the yard. And then I came back home and made the listing active so that I didn't get any sort of violations. But it takes a long time to do that. And so once I did that, there wasn't a whole lot of time to do anything else because I was working with my assistant until most of the morning so that we could kind of get somewhere there. That didn't go well. Friday did not go well for that particular deal. Not good at all. So anyway, that's where I've been. But I wanted to tell you a story that I thought was kind of funny, and that is, I think it was, I don't even know. Today's Saturday. So Thursday, I had a showing in Shaw, which is an area down by Shaw's Garden, which is like it's a beautiful, like, botanical gardens, they call them. I don't know if they're all over the United States, but it's just all these beautiful plants, and they have a Japanese section. It's just beautiful. Anyway, so then on the I would say the south side of Shaw is bordered by Tower Grove Park. And then south of Tower Grove Park is Tower Grove South. And if you go across Grand, it's Tower Grove East. Okay. Tower Grove and Shaw growing up was not a place where you'd want to live. It was beaten down and just not great. But over time, it has gotten really, really expensive to live there. So much so that most people that want to live in Tower Grove South aren't living in Tower Grove South. It's not even going to happen. And Shaw is even more expensive. Now, I say expensive relatively. But anyway, I was in Shaw and I was showing a house. And then I needed to go out to Oakville, which is not anything like Shaw, down Highway 55. So 55 in Becker, Telegraph in Becker, but it's way out there. So that's a half-hour drive from Shaw. So so before I left, I needed to take a picture for the listing. Now, these are not the professional pictures. This is a coming soon listing. I just need a picture of the front of the house so that I can put it up with my stuff so that people can, at least see. I hate not having pictures in the MLS. And so I got my camera, it's going in a number of different directions. I got my camera, the same camera I use for my live stream, because it's a kick-ass camera. Now, I don't know how to use it. But I also have never used it to take pictures. So there's that. And anyway, I needed to take a picture of this house. So I charged the battery. I have 2 batteries, and charged them. And I practiced a picture with my wife just to make sure that I could take a picture, like press the button. Literally, I needed to practice because I didn't know what I was going to do. And so I had the camera with me. We're going to take a picture in Oakville, and got done with my showing in Shaw. And that house is under contract, by the way, already. It was supposed to not be under contract until Monday, but I think the the sellers got a good enough deal where they took it off the market. So then I go to take a picture of this house, and I have my real estate sign because I'm going to put my sign in the yard afterwards. It's a no-no. If you look at all the listings in St. Louis, you'll probably not see a real estate sign in the listings. Why? It's not allowed. I don't know why it's not allowed. I just know it's not allowed. So anyway, I'm leaving Shaw, and now I'm going to Oakville. And so I get my camera out, my DSLR, and I am shooting. I'm going to shoot a picture of the house. And so when I go in there, I get the camera out. I look down and I notice that it's still an on. The camera had been on since I started the drive. And this has been like 4 hours in 100-degree weather. And so it turns out the battery's dead. So now I'm a half hour away from my house. I have no camera that I'm using right now. And I need to get these pictures. So I pull out my iPhone, okay? And I literally take maybe 6 pictures, mess with the settings a little bit, but 6 pictures. And I'll be honest with you, the picture came out gorgeous. I mean, it is unbelievable how an iPhone can take that good of a picture. And so that brings me to something else. Why is it? We're in 2022. My iPhone just took a kick-ass picture. What is the excuse for having pictures online that are blurry, not focused? You can't tell me that people are that bad at taking pictures in 2022. Hell, since probably 2007 or 2008, we've been able to take pretty clear pictures. I mean, what in the world? Why is it that we can't get this done? I think it's intentional. So I think that if you go and look at a listing online and it's got blurry pictures and the pictures are garbage, they're doing that on purpose. It's 2022. It's not an accident. No one can be that bad at taking pictures. I went and looked. I thought, maybe it's just the way they're uploaded from MLS to like Zillow and stuff like that. So I looked at Zillow and Realtor.com for my picture. No, it's gorgeous. I mean, I'm not a photographer. I'm not the best photographer. I don't know anything about much. I don't want to be tooting my own horn, but this picture came out perfect with an iPhone. And so let this be a lesson. If people are, coming to you and, if you're going to list your home, why don't you do yourself a favor and ask the agent, say you're really not sure. And your criteria really is like you want to try and, have an outstanding listing for people. Do yourself a favor and ask them, hey, just send me a copy of the last listing you did, wherever you're posting it. And then the other thing is challenge those agents. If the agent says, hey, we bought the upgraded package on Realtor.com to showcase your listing, okay, then go and look at their showcase listing on Realtor.com. Is it done well? I mean, now you have to understand, different houses are going to have different things in them. Some of them aren't going to be updated, but there's no excuse for blurry pictures in 2022. Okay. Even the most awful house should have the most clear pictures there are. Okay. This is just what I've learned in the past, 2 days. But anyway, so now that I've got these pictures taken, I have to go back to, where was it? Oh gosh, it was South City. It was near Bevo, which is somewhat close to Shaw. So I went all the way out to Oakville, all the way back to the Bevo area. And by that time, I had to show a house. And by that time I had not eaten. It was 8:00 at night. And, I was done. I've wanted to do a nightly live stream, but I'll tell you what, it's too much. It's too much working all day and then doing a live stream at night consistently on a different topic. Cause I have our nature of employment. I like it, but I just can't do it. And so I'm not doing it right now. I'm having trouble just getting one live stream out, like you can tell. So anyway, that's where I was. I mean, that's been like every day. We had an inspection at the house. I don't want to talk about that too much right now, but I do have a story about that in the future. Let's make a hard turn. Okay. I like to talk about Google Trends. I like to talk about what is everybody else talking about, and then how do we is there a lesson for us in the real estate world? And so I wanted to bring this article up. Now I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go there and everything. I'm going to double check. Now, you guys know, if you've watched me for any amount of time, that I think that Elon Musk is a genius. And he's a genius because he's able to get his message out. Okay. There it is. Here's the article. I think I'll leave it like this. But for the last, I'd say, 6 months to a year, people are talking about Elon Musk and Twitter, Elon Musk and Tesla, Elon Musk and SpaceX, all of it. Elon Musk is the richest man in the world. Is that true? I don't know. But anyway, it's fascinating to me how he continues to get it in the news. And I'm just impressed. I'm going down here. I think I feel a little bit better down here. But anyway, what I'd like to do is just go over this new wrinkle and put my own spin on it. And so let's just go. This is an NPR article, so you can judge however you'd like to on that. It says Elon Musk says he won't buy Twitter. Now, I'm sure everybody's heard that's interested in this sort of thing that Elon Musk says he's not going to buy Twitter. And so let's just look at this article from NPR and then, compare that with the actual filing and see, what this is about. So it says Elon Musk wants to break off his agreement to buy Twitter. In a letter to the company filed Friday with the SEC, Musk accuses Twitter of making false and misleading representations about the prevalence of fake accounts on its platform. He says that the company has not complied with its obligations to share data and information that he says he needs to evaluate its business. So what he's saying is look, there's more fake accounts than you're telling me. Now, just between you and me, I have I have 3 accounts on Twitter. I don't think that they're fake accounts. I use them all. But I don't know what the definition of a fake account is or a spam account on Twitter is. I just don't. Is it like if it's a person and they open their account on like yesterday and they're just new to the platform? I mean, is that a spam account? I don't think so. I mean, I guess a spam account is one built to engage with others, on false pretenses, but it's a weird deal. It says sometimes Twitter, and the quote out of the letter says, sometimes Twitter has ignored Mr. Musk's requests. Sometimes it has rejected them for reasons that appear to be unjustified, and sometimes it has claimed to comply while giving Mr. Musk incomplete or unusable information, Musk's lawyer Mike Ringler wrote. It says legal experts say this may not be sufficient grounds to break off the $44 billion deal without Musk being on the hook for a hefty fine. In response to Musk's letter, the chair of Twitter's board said it planned to sue. Now, it says that it may not be sufficient grounds to break off the deal, okay, without Musk being on the hook for a hefty fine. But you'll see in the article and other places, they really say things like, Twitter's going to win. It's a slam dunk for Twitter. But it doesn't seem like anybody is saying that he's going to be compelled to purchase Twitter regardless. It says in response to Musk's letter, the chair of Twitter's board said it planned to sue. Well, what else are they going to do? I mean, what would be the response? What obviously you're going to sue. You have no other recourse. It says the Twitter board is committing to closing the transaction on the price and terms agreed upon with Mr. Musk and plans to pursue legal action to enforce the merger agreement. We are confident we will prevail in the Delaware Court of Chancery, said Brett Taylor in a tweet referring to Delaware court that handles corporate disputes. I mean, what is Twitter going to say? Are they going to say, oh, you got us, we're just going to go away? So then we continue. It says the billionaire CEO of Tesla and SpaceX struck a deal to buy the social media company back in April, but almost immediately he started hinting and then saying outright that he had cold feet. In May, he declared the purchase was on hold while he looked into Twitter's accounting of how many users are not real people, but automated bots or spam. Soon after, Twitter agreed to give him access to its Firehose, a real-time stream of more than 500 million tweets posted every day. Since then, the two sides have been sharing information and working to close the transaction. Now, is this true? Is this true? Is the person that wrote this a party to the transaction. Does this person that wrote this have access to firsthand knowledge of this situation? Can that source be identified? Because it's very important, because the way this is framed, and I'm not trying to criticize NPR, but it is a story. Okay. It says soon after Twitter agreed to give him access to his fire hose. Since then, the two sides have been sharing information and working to close the transaction. We don't know if that's true. I have no idea. And I don't think that this article, the writer of the article, knows either. No offense. No, I'm not trying to say there's a bias or anything. I'm just saying the way it's written, let me try to make a distinction. The way it's written is, hey, Elon Musk got cold feet and he wants out of the deal. And his lawyer says X, Y, and Z, basically that he's not getting the information that he needs, that he feels comfortable with moving forward with the transaction. I think that's a little bit off. We'll go over that in a minute. But then the article is saying is, Twitter has been just, Elon Musk said, you know what, if I don't get this information, we're done. I need this information. Twitter happily gives him the information. And the reason why Elon Musk isn't buying Twitter is because he got cold feet. Well, we don't know that. We don't know that. And so that this is not good, the way this is written, in my opinion, because it's a narrative based on something that we don't know. Now, I'm not going to call out every single instance of something that I see that's off. I'm just saying in this particular space, it's a little strange. Now, on Thursday, the Washington Post reported the deal was in jeopardy because Musk doubts that Twitter's spam figures are verifiable. His team was expected to take potentially drastic action, the Post reported. So was the Post reporting true that the deal was in jeopardy on Thursday? Yes. There's no question, because on Friday he sent the letter to the board. Now, I don't know if I saw it in this article or some other. The question of bots is very important, because if they're not real, they can't be monetized. Okay. So it does matter. Spam does matter on the platform. It says, bots may not be the only factor in Musk's change of heart. While his offer of $54.20 a share was initially seen as a lowball price for Twitter, given that it was trading above $70 last year, tech stocks and the market as a whole have fallen sharply since he struck the deal. It says Twitter shares are now trading around $37, down nearly 30% from the day Musk purchase was announced. In May, Musk even said he might seek to negotiate a lower price. Now, I want to make something clear. I don't think Elon Musk is sitting there at night checking Twitter logs for the data. I think he has people to do that. And that's what makes this kind of fascinating. Let's say, just for fun, let's say Apple wanted to buy Twitter, okay? That's two companies, you think, in your head, two companies, okay? You don't think Mr. Apple, right, is looking over the data. You think there's a whole team pouring over the data from Apple, and you think that Twitter is handing over the information as they see fit, and it's working out. The problem here is it's Elon Musk. It's a person. And when you think Elon Musk, he's only one guy, okay? I guarantee you he's not sitting there staring at this stuff. People are reporting to him, hey, we're trying to get this information. They won't give it to me. And he said, okay, and that's, what do you want to do about that? And then what should I do about that? And he has an expert say that's what they should do. Again, the idea that he's sitting there staring at Twitter data that has been provided is silly. It says on Thursday, Twitter had pointed to a statement in the company issued in June saying it has and will continue to cooperatively share information with Musk, and that we intend to close the transaction and enforce the merger agreement and the agreed price and terms. The company was expected to hold a shareholder vote on the deal by mid-August. Now, Twitter points to this statement that says they will do something, okay? That's no different than the White House press secretary saying one thing that has absolutely no relevance to the question being asked, okay? And there's no way to really divine truth from that. So just because you make a statement doesn't make it so. It says Musk signed a merger agreement. Okay, so it says the two sides signed a legal agreement that Musk would buy Twitter for $54.20 a share. If either side broke off the deal, they could be on the hook to pay a $1 billion fee to the other party. Okay, so I mean, just think about the numbers here. He's going to take this thing private for $44 billion. I think that was the number. Okay, and if he doesn't, he's out of billion. Okay, drop in the bucket. I know that sounds crazy to all of us who have like thousands in our bank account, but I mean, again, that isn't enough to keep you from making a deal. It says in his letter on Friday, Musk cites Twitter's alleged refusal to turn over more information about bots as grounds to abandon the deal, but legal experts say that would be an uphill battle. Now, we know about LawTube. I don't purport to understand or know the legal ins and outs of this deal. I also don't feel confident enough. Like when you go find a lawyer to comment on a deal, I don't know that person is an expert. I don't know if they're well versed in the deal. So that's another part of this article and any other ones. It's like you can have a lawyer say it, but that doesn't mean it's true. Okay, and the tone of this article is fascinating to me. It says in his letter he cites Twitter's alleged refusal to turn over more information about bots as grounds to abandon the deal. Okay, that's his reason for leaving the deal. And it says legal experts say that's how many legal experts? 20, 30? Who are these experts? What is their relationship to the deal? None. It's a way of adding credence to something that isn't really there. It says, for years, Twitter has publicly said it estimates less than 5% of daily users who see ads or spam or bots, but has also cautioned the number could be higher. So Musk has said in the past, and I've seen it, and he says, well, you've said in an SEC filing that this is 5% or less. And he's saying, prove it. And then it says, Musk disputes this, saying he believes as much as 20% of the accounts may be fake. It says, and then, okay, fine. Then it says, while Twitter gave Musk access to its fire hose of public data, it told reporters this week its spam estimates are also based on private data, such as the user's IP addresses, phone numbers, locations, and behavior, and are therefore difficult for outsiders to verify. So it gave Musk data that they themselves don't think they can verify. It says, and are difficult for outsiders to verify. Well, you need to be able to verify it because that's what the deal apparently hinges on. Okay. Then it says, even if Twitter's 5% figure is incorrect, that still might not be enough to let Musk back out or change the terms of the deal without paying a hefty price. That isn't the issue. The issue Musk is claiming, his allegation is that he's not getting the information to verify the number of bots. Okay. That's what he's going. It's not that the number is incorrect at this point because he can't even get the data for that. It says merger agreements are drafted to avoid exactly what Musk is doing, which is to try to find some tiny little false thing and then say, whoops, I get to walk away now, says Ann Lipton, a business law professor at Tulane University Law School. They specifically say things like, you can't back out unless it's just not just false, but incredibly false, hugely false, massively damaging to the company. Okay, based on this, Ms. Lipton, Professor Lipton, okay, if the number of bots is 40%, is that hugely false? Will that massively damage the company's value? I mean, I would say it would. It's not a tiny little thing to have a difference between 5% bots and 40% bots. It's significant. Okay. And then the next part of this is kind of fun. The way she says it, it says merger agreements are drafted to avoid exactly what Musk is doing, which is to try to find some little false thing and then say, whoops, I get to walk away now. Who wrote the merger agreements? Was it the number one attorney in the entire world that wrote this agreement subject to U.S. law? Who wrote it? How much of it was boilerplate? Literally. I mean, who's involved in this? Now, look, everyone in this deal is more powerful than I am. Okay. Everybody in this, from the writer, the author of the article to the people involved. I mean, this is way past my pay grade. I get it. But I do understand, just from working in the business and from being involved in lawsuits in the past and things of this nature. Look, the lawyer you use can be a total bum, and you can still be paying them, hundreds of thousands of dollars. That doesn't matter. I think the way it's actually is merger agreements can be drafted to avoid exactly what, but we don't know that this particular merger agreement, I haven't seen anybody say anything about this. So I don't know what this merger, do we know what the merger agreement even says? Is it public? Is it on the SEC? And even if it is, would a normal person be able to read it? It says Twitter has a strong case against Musk, say experts. Who are the experts? Ann Lipton is the expert? Okay. I'm just saying, one person does not make experts. That's plural. No offense. Now, this is, again, I'm not attacking. I'm not trying to attack the article as it's written. We have to get news somehow, right? We have to get news somehow. The way this is set up, it's very bizarre to me. It says Twitter has a strong case against Musk, say experts. The merger agreement includes what is known as a specific performance clause, which says Twitter can take Musk to court to force him to go through with the purchase as long as he still has financing in place. Okay. Now watch this. What if people that want to finance Musk's deal, investors, say, we are not financing this deal if it's more than 5% bots? He's not going through with the deal then because he can't get financing. And it says, while that may sound risky and costly for Twitter, Lipton says the company's case would be very strong. Again, we don't know. We honestly don't know. We have I've seen nothing that indicates we know if the case is very strong. We think, and its board has compelling incentives to see the sale through. Absolutely. Absolutely. Investors are expecting to receive $54.20 a piece for their shares. The board's view, according to a person familiar with the deal talks, is that the sale agreement with Musk is the most valuable part of Twitter right now. The users in their minds aren't even worth anything, or severely not worth even close to $54.20 a share. So that's a problem. When you are Twitter, when you are an entity, and the most valuable thing is the deal, that's not good. Not good. That doesn't say much about the business. It says they would rather have the $54.20 without a court fight, but it's worth fighting over, Lipton said. Given the company's current share price, $54.20 seems like an unbelievable deal for Twitter. So there is a lot that they could sacrifice that would still make it worth it. And then in the end, if they got to force Musk to close. If he cannot close due to financing, they're not going to force him. They're not going to be able to force him to close. And do you remember at the time that this deal was announced, how many people, tech experts, were saying, hey, look, this is not enough for Twitter. Twitter's the greatest thing ever. Twitter's worth so much more than 50. Look, it was just $70 a share a couple of years ago. Never mind that it kind of sat for 15 years and didn't really do anything. But it's just revisionism. It's the way we move forward. We sort of tuck things that are, remember, we tuck those away when we're writing a story. And so it says Musk might try to get Twitter to discount. Okay. So maybe Musk's whole thing all along has been to negotiate a lower deal. Says Some Wall Street analysts say Twitter's board and management should be open to accepting a lower price to avoid a lengthy legal battle. Now, these are Wall Street analysts. These are not lawyers. Lawyers said you should take them to court. It's like, let's do this. Let's have fun with doctors. You go to a doctor, you say, I've got something wrong with my arm. They're like, well, what surgery can we perform to fix your arm? It's not like, oh, maybe you should just rest. It's the same thing with when you talk to an attorney. What do you expect them to say? Oh, well, maybe you can settle that outside of court. We won't have to worry about it. No. They're kind of predisposed to that. So anyway, it says there's no chance of it getting done at 54.20. You're either going to have to see a 15 to 20% drop in the offer price to get Elon Musk engaged again, or he continues to play the bot card. So it sounds like, no offense, this Angelo Zeno seems to have more of a street approach, the Wall Street approach to this situation. I mean, old school Wall Street, they're not paying attention to the lawyer stuff. You know, they're trying to make a deal. That it's a different mindset. It says taking Musk to court could be even more damaging to the Twitter at a time when uncertainty over the deal and what the billionaire's ownership might mean are weighing heavy on the company. Now look at this. All of a sudden, you know, in the last part of the article, it says it could be even more damaging to Twitter if he doesn't take over ownership. That just him saying he's going to buy the company and now not is damaging the company. Morale is already low and some employees are leaving, which is fine. That's their right. CEO Parag Agrawal has shaken up his executive ranks and announced a hiring freeze and spending cuts. Well, why? Why? If your business is thriving, why are you having a hiring freeze and spending cuts? And why are people leaving? What do they know? It says going to court doesn't bode well for the business prospects of your company, and it further adds uncertainty to the employee base. There's also a risk for Musk, Lipton said. Now it comes back to the attorney. This is the attorney talking. What if he has to buy the company and now he's kind of undermined it at the same time? Ultimately, she said, the billionaire's antic, however chaotic, appear to have a single goal. I don't think he's committed to winning. I think he's committed to not spending $44 billion on Twitter. Now that's from the lawyer. Okay. So she even sees the article is written. We don't know all the quotes that the lawyer really, you know, what she really said to the reporter. Okay. $44 billion for Twitter seems like a high valuation based on its current stock price. No? I mean, I can understand that. Now, has Musk undermined the company and damaged it to the point where he damaged it enough that it's his fault that it's a lower price? I don't know. Like, all I know is that when you're on Twitter and you see Musk, like, everyone's tweeting at him like, look, I'm getting banned for this. And he'll say, that seems a little sad. You know, and Twitter's policy to get rid of people has been ridiculous to me. If you're a real person and you have a real opinion and it's not hate speech, right? I'm not interested in defining hate speech for the purposes of this discussion. But let's say you're not inciting a riot. You're not doing anything that's, you just have an opinion that's outside of the mainstream. Okay. And they boot you. They kick you off. You have no way to get back unless you delete the tweet, but don't delete the tweet if you don't think that you did anything wrong. So now you're out. Okay. You can't, as a business, keep throwing people out. Like, at some point, like just for Trump. Okay. Just for Trump. How many people were on Twitter that were looking forward to seeing Trump write something? Like, you say, you could spin it around. You could say, how many people were not using Twitter because Trump was on it? See, my own personal opinion is many more people were attracted to Twitter because a famous person was on it. Many famous people are on Twitter, and some of them get kicked off, and it's kind of weird. You know, it's very odd to be deplatformed. This is not something that I would have understood 20 years ago or even seen. But let's continue. What I did next is I just got the letter from the SEC. Now it's very small. The text is very small. I'm going to go through it, but I don't know that it's going to resonate because it's kind of legalese. But I think you should always, like, this is what I was taught, and I'm not as a journalist, because I'm certainly not a journalist, but always, if you can get a first person source, if you can get the original source, you're probably better off than having read somebody else's version of it, at least to your own learning. So let's see if there's anything to learn here. It says it's written to Twitter. It's written to that Vijaya, the chief legal officer. She was on Rogan one time. It says, we refer to the agreement and plan of merger and by and among X Holdings 1, X Holdings 2, and Twitter, dated April 25th, the merger agreement. And in our letter, you dated as of June 6, 2022. As further described below, Mr. Musk is terminating the merger agreement because Twitter is in material breach of multiple provisions of that agreement, appears to have made false and misleading representations upon which Mr. Musk relied when entering into the merger agreement, and is likely to suffer a company material adverse effect, as that term is defined in the merger agreement. It says, while Section 6.4 of the merger agreement requires Twitter to provide Mr. Musk and his advisors all data and information that Mr. Musk requests for any reasonable business purpose related to the consummation of the transaction, Twitter has not complied with its contractual obligations. Now this is an accusation. For nearly 2 months, Mr. Musk has sought the data and information necessary to make an independent assessment of the prevalence of fake or spam accounts on Twitter's platform. Our letter dated to you May 25th, 2022. That's just when it was. It says, this information is fundamental to Twitter's business and financial performance and is necessary to consummate the transaction contemplated by the merger agreement, because it is needed to ensure Twitter's satisfaction of the conditions to closing. To facilitate Mr. Musk's financing and financial planning for the transaction, and to engage in transition planning for the business. Now, in this letter, it says right here, to facilitate Mr. Musk's financing and financial planning for the transaction. They just said they can hold him to the purchase unless he doesn't have financing, unless he cannot secure financing. And if he cannot secure financing because of the data that's not being given to him, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't know that this isn't just there are people that say, call their attorney and say, will you please send this person a letter and tell them I'm tired of playing around. Just put it out there and get it out there. They write letters. I think it's like, for me, it was like $500 if I wanted a letter. I don't know what it is now. I don't care. I don't write letters to people from attorneys. It's just not my business. But anyway, it says Twitter has failed or refused to provide information. Sometimes Twitter has ignored his requests. Sometimes it has rejected them for reasons that appear to be unjustified. And sometimes it has claimed to comply while giving Mr. Musk incomplete or unusable information. So it's like this. Mr. Musk, his representatives say, I'd like to see this data. And Twitter says, okay, here's the data. And then Mr. Musk says, this is not the data that I asked for. Please provide the data that I asked for. And I suspect it goes round and round and round. And I don't think that either Musk or Twitter is necessarily hiding data as much as they are not on the same page as to what the data is they agreed to view. Now, I'm taking an approach that's like, hey, we're trying to be good people here. It says, Mr. Musk and his financial advisors at Morgan Stanley have been requesting critical information from Twitter from as far back as May of 2022, and repeatedly since then on the relationship between Twitter's disclosed, that's user figure, and the prevalence of false or spam accounts on the platform. If there were ever any doubt as to the nature of these information requests, the May 25th letter made clear that Mr. Musk's goal was to understand how many of Twitter's claimed MDAUs, which were the users, were in fact fake or spam accounts. That letter noted that items 1.03 to 1.13 of the diligence request list contain high priority requests for enterprise data and other information intended to enable Mr. Musk and his advisors to make an independent assessment of the prevalence of fake or spam accounts on Twitter's platform. The letter then provided Twitter with a detailed list of requests to this effect. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to make a bad legal take because I'm telling you right now, I'm not an attorney. I have seen on Twitter legal people that say the due diligence is to be performed before you sign the merger agreement. Now, is that true? I don't know. I think it matters because you can't refer to something in the due diligence. Now, we have due diligence in commercial transactions. You can basically walk doing your due diligence. If something doesn't come through on a commercial deal, you're out. Like this is our due diligence. We found out that, there's an underground storage tank on the facility that we had no idea about. We're out, and you're able to walk. So, this is a little different, but at the same time, like, you find anything in due diligence, you're out. Now, people are saying, well, he signed the merger agreement after the due diligence. Well, I don't know that. I don't know everything about this deal. It says, since then, Mr. Musk has provided numerous additional follow-up requests, all aimed at filling the gaps in the incomplete information that Twitter provided in response to his broad request for information related to Twitter's reported DAU accounts, MDAU, and reported estimates of fault and spam accounts. For example, in our letter you dated June 29th, we referenced Mr. Musk's request in the May 25th letter for information that would allow him to make an independent assessment of the prevalence of fake or spam accounts on Twitter platform. Because Twitter, by its own admission, provided only incomplete data that was not sufficient to perform such an independent assessment, the June 29th letter endeavored to be even more specific and to reduce the burden of the original request by identifying a specific subset of high-priority information responsive to Mr. Musk's prior request for Twitter to immediately make available. Now, they're saying, based on my reading, they're saying, look, we asked for this. You didn't even give us that. So we made a more specific request. Can you just give us this information and we should be good? And that information was not given. Now, these are footnoted. I'm not going to go through the footnotes. Okay. It says, notwithstanding these repeated requests over the past 2 months, Twitter has still failed to provide much of the data information responsive to Mr. Musk's repeated requests, including but not limited to the information related to Twitter's process for auditing the inclusion of spam and fakes accounts. So the article we looked at on NPR said that it would be hard for an outsider to understand Twitter's internal processes for finding out if there's a fake account. Okay. But this is what they wanted. So seems like you should provide it. And it says information, number 2, information related to Twitter's process for identifying and suspending spam and fake accounts. So okay, so how do you know, Twitter, how do you know to suspend an account if it's fake or spam? Like, what is that process? So, is it clear? Like, I'm not a tech person. I have no idea. I don't know how difficult that data would be to get. Maybe it's very, very difficult. Who knows? But we continue. It says the daily measures. Now it goes number 3. It says the daily measures of the MDAU, which is the users for the past 8 quarters. Now, this seems like, what is this information? It seems like it should be able to been given. It says Mr. Musk reiterated his request for access to the sample set and calculations performed, as well as any related reports or analysis to support Twitter's representation that fewer than 5% are false or spam accounts. To that end, Mr. Musk requested that Twitter provide daily measures for the previous 8 quarters and through the present. This information is derivative of the information Mr. Musk first saw in the May 19th diligence request list. Although Twitter has provided certain summary data recording the MDAU calculations, Twitter has not provided the complete daily measures as requested. Why not? Why not? It's like if you have a due diligence in there, okay, and you want this data, and then you guys agree, well, why can't you have the data? So it doesn't make any sense to me. It says board materials related to Twitter's MDAU calculations. In the June 17th letter, Mr. Musk required a variety of board materials and communications related to Twitter's MDAU metrics, its calculation of the number of spam and false accounts, its disclosure of the MDAU metric, and the company's disclosure of the number of spam accounts on the platform. Twitter has provided an incomplete data set in response to this request and has not provided information sufficient to enable Mr. Musk to make an independent assessment of Twitter's board and management's understanding of its MDAU metric. So it says has not provided information sufficient to enable Mr. Musk to make an independent assessment of Twitter's board and management's understanding of. So what he's saying there, what the letter's saying there is, look, I don't even know if you guys know the answer. Like, I don't know if you can even be accurate. That's a problem. I mean, that seems to me that'd be a problem. It says materials related to Twitter's financial condition. It says Mr. Musk is entitled under 6.4 of the merger agreement to all information concerning the business of the company for any reasonable business purpose related to the consummation of the transactions under the section 6.11 of the merger agreement, to information reasonably requested in connection with his efforts to secure the debt financing necessary to consummate the transaction. To that end, Mr. Musk requested on June 17th a variety of board materials, including a working bottoms-up financial model for 2022, a budget for 2022, an updated draft plan or budget, and a working copy of Goldman Sachs' valuation model underlying its fairness opinion. Twitter has provided only a PDF copy of Goldman Sachs' final board presentation. Now, I don't know. Maybe that's all they have. It says, in short, Twitter has not provided information that Mr. Musk has requested for nearly 2 months, notwithstanding his repeated detailed clarifications intended to simplify Twitter's identification, collection, and disclosure of the most relevant information sought in Mr. Musk's original requests. It says, while Twitter has provided some information, the information has come with strings attached, such as use limitations or other artificial formatting features, which has rendered some of the information minimally useful to Mr. Musk and his advisors. For example, when Twitter finally provided access to the 8 developer APIs first explicitly requested by Mr. Musk in the May 25th letter, those APIs contained a rate limit lower than what Twitter provides to its largest enterprise customers. Twitter only offered to provide Mr. Musk with the same level of access as some of its customers, after we explained that throttling the rate limit prevented Mr. Musk and his advisors from performing the analysis that he wished to conduct in any reasonable period of time. Additionally, those APIs contain an artificial cap on the number of queries Mr. Musk and his team can run regardless of the rate limit, an issue that initially prevented Mr. Musk and advisors from completing an analysis of the data in any reasonable period of time. That was really slick, by the way. If Twitter did that, that was dirty, but I respect it. It says, Mr. Musk raised this issue as soon as he became aware of it in the first paragraph of the June 29th letter. We've just been informed by our data experts that Twitter has placed an artificial cap on the number of searches our experts can perform with this data, which is now preventing Mr. Musk and his team from doing their analysis. That cap was not removed until July 6th. July 6th. It's July 9th right now. This letter was like, what? I don't know. We'll look at the data. I don't want to move because I'll lose my place. After Musk demanded its removal for a second time, based on the foregoing refusal to provide information that Mr. Musk has been requesting since May 9th, Twitter is in breach. Now that's, your opinion. I don't know if that's true or not. It says, despite public speculation on this point, Mr. Musk did not waive his right to review Twitter's data and information simply because he chose not to seek the data information before entering into the merger agreement. Now, did you see that? Now, we've been talking about this. Public speculation. I've seen the public speculation. Mr. Musk did not waive his right to review the Twitter's data and information simply because he chose not to seek the data and information before entering into the merger agreement. In fact, he negotiated access and information rights within the merger agreement precisely so that he could review the data and information that is important to Twitter's business before financing and completing the transaction. I mean, wow. So the lawyer said, hey, people don't write merger agreements to be able to back out of them. This letter is saying we wrote this merger agreement so we can look at this data. We did not waive anything during our due diligence. In fact, it's still in the merger agreement, which is really, really great. I mean, from what I read and what I understand, again, I'm not an attorney. So, okay. So I think this is interesting. And because, why not? Right. We're live streaming right now. I have one person watching. Let's go. It says, as Twitter has been on the notice of its breach since at least June 6th, any cure period afforded to Twitter made under the merger agreement has now lapsed. Accordingly, Mr. Musk hereby exercises X Holding One's right to terminate the merger agreement and abandoning the transaction contemplated thereby. And this letter constitutes formal notice of X Holding One's termination of the merger agreement pursuant to Section 8.1 thereof. And in addition to the foregoing, Twitter is in breach of the merger agreement because the merger agreement appears to contain material and accurate representations. Specifically in the merger agreement, Twitter represented that no documents that Twitter filed with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission since January 1st, 2022, included any untrue statement of material fact. Twitter has repeatedly made statements in such filings regarding the portion of its MDAUs that are false or spam, including statements that we have performed an internal review of a sample of accounts and estimate the average of false or spam accounts during the first quarter of 2022 represented fewer than 5% of our MDAU during the quarter. And after we determine an account is spam, malicious automation, or fake, we stop counting in our MDAU or other related metrics. So now we see why they wanted to know about the spam accounts and how they are eliminated. Because if you were to keep those in the numbers in the MDAU, it would be an inflated number. Mr. Musk relied on this representation of the merger agreement and Twitter's numerous public statements regarding false and spam accounts in its publicly filed SEC documents. When agreeing to enter into the merger agreement, Mr. Musk has the right to seek rescission of the merger agreement in the event these material representations are determined to be false, although Twitter has not yet provided complete information to Mr. Musk that would enable him to do a complete and comprehensive review of spam and fake accounts on Twitter's platform. He has been able to partially and preliminarily analyze the accuracy of Twitter's disclosure regarding its MDAU. While this analysis remains ongoing, all indications suggest that several of Twitter's public disclosures regarding the MDAUs are either false or materially misleading. First, they're laying it out. Although Twitter has consistently represented in securities filings that fewer than 5% of its MDAUs are false or spam accounts, based on the information provided by Twitter to date, it appears that Twitter is dramatically understating the proportion of spam and false accounts represented as MDAU count. Preliminary analysis by Mr. Musk advisors of the information provided by Twitter to date caused Mr. Musk to strongly believe that the proportion of false and spam accounts included in the reported MDAU count is wildly higher than 5%. Now, he didn't give a number. What is the number? Second, Twitter's disclosure that it ceases to count fake or spam users as MDAU when it determines that those users are fake appears to be false. So they're including the numbers, and that's not good. Is the allegation. Instead, we understand based on Twitter's representations during a June 30th call with us that Twitter includes accounts that have been suspended and thus are known to be fake or spam in its quarterly MDAU count, even when it is aware that the suspended accounts were included for that quarter. Yeesh. Last, Twitter has represented that it is continually seeking to improve our ability to estimate the total number of spam accounts and eliminate them from the calculations of our MDAU. But Twitter's process for calculating its MDAU and the percentage of that compromised of non-monetizable spam accounts appear to be arbitrary and ad hoc, disclosing that Twitter has reasoned process for calculating MDAU when the opposite is true and would be false and misleading. Twitter's representation of the merger agreement regarding the accuracy of its SEC disclosure relating to fault and spam accounts may have also caused or is reasonably likely to result in a company material adverse effect, which may form additional basis for terminating the merger agreement. While Mr. Musk and his advisors continue to investigate the exact nature and extent of this event, Mr. Musk has a reason to believe that the true number of false and spam accounts on Twitter's platform is substantially higher than the amount of less than 5% represented by Twitter in its SEC filings. Twitter's true MDAU count is likely a key component of the company's business, given that approximately 90% of its revenue comes from advertisements. For this reason, to the extent that Twitter has underrepresented the number of false or spam accounts on its platform, that may constitute a company material adverse effect under Section 7.2 of the merger agreement. Mr. Musk is also examining the company's recent financial performance and revised outlook and is considering whether the company's declining business prospects and financial outlook constitute a company material adverse effect, giving Mr. Musk a separate and distinct basis for determining the merger agreement. So what they're saying here is the company is going downhill. based on the financial outlook and the business prospects, I bought a company that was doing pretty well. That's the argument. I don't know if it's true or not. It says, finally, Twitter also did not comply with its obligations under 6.1 of the merger agreement to seek and obtain consent before deviating from its obligations to conduct its business in the ordinary course and preserve substantially intact the material components of the current business organization. Twitter's conduct in firing 2 key high-ranking employees, its revenue product lead and a general manager of consumer, as well as announcing on July 7th it was laying off a third of its talent acquisition team, implicates the ordinary course provision. Twitter has also instituted a general hiring freeze, which extends even to reconsideration of outstanding job offers. Moreover, 3 executives have resigned from Twitter since the merger agreement was signed: the head of data science, the vice president of Twitter service, and a vice president of product management for health, conversation, and growth. Wow, that is a really BS title. Can you imagine? What do you do every day? I'm the vice president of product management for health, conversation, and growth. That's a worthless job. How much does that person get paid? I would like that job. I have that job at my company. It doesn't pay much. The company has not received parents' consent for changes in the conduct of its business, including for the specific changes listed above. The company's action, therefore, constitute a material breach of Section 6.1 of the merger. Now, firing someone is one thing. A person resigning, I would think, is a completely different thing. But again, I'm not a lawyer. But here's the deal. There's a lot of names here, the LLPs and all that stuff. I don't know. I think Elon Musk, bottom line, very fascinating person. Very fascinating. And even doing this, even doing this, still is still taking that conversation and still dominating the headlines with it. And I think that's impressive. So, it's July 9th. I have no idea what's going to happen. People have said, hey, man, just start your own social media company. I think that is a naive thought, because how many subscribers are you starting with if you start your own? So, for example, look, this is my live stream. I think I have 13 followers, 13 subscribers. Okay. On my main channel, I have 69. I had 70, and I actually had 14 on this one, but I don't know, people left. I don't know if they were spam or what. But anyway, it's been very, very difficult to gain followers. Okay. Subscriptions. Very, very difficult. If you're starting a new company, like he has cachet, he has name cachet, he can generate headlines. Heck, just the people that are happy with Tesla would go ahead and sign up. But that's not the millions of people that it would take to make a dent in the valuation and to make the business viable, in my opinion. It's very, very different. So Trump has Truth Social. There was Getter. I mean, there's all these, there's Locals as out there. There's an alternative to YouTube, Rumble. There's that weird Odyssey. That one I've kind of messed around with. It hasn't been so great. So I don't feel like, how do I put it? I don't feel like it's, you say, well, he's got all this money. Well, if you get to be really good in business, you use other people's money to make money. You don't use your own. In fact, you try to conserve as much of your own money as possible, ever, which is why you have tax write-offs, which is why you have, that's, people don't understand tax law, tax policy. Very, very complicated in the end with what you're trying to do. So I'm going to leave that at there. I'm going to go into some more lighthearted articles. Again, it's a Saturday afternoon. Let's have some fun and let's talk about some things. So with that, let's go to the next article. Now, what I would say is, let's go over to the rates. What are mortgage rates doing? Let's go over and deal with realty. By the way, that might be a house I listed. Let's go over there and look. Oh goodness. Let's put you in the mix. There you go. Now you can't see the house I listed, but maybe it'll come back up. Where's what I'm looking for? Okay, here we go. 30-year fixed. This is Mortgage News Daily. And they say that right now, if I walked into a office, I could probably, if I had the best of best credit and everything going my way, 5.84%. That is an increase of 11 basis points from the day before, which was 5.73%. Mortgages were really, really high, like Thursday of last week. I believe I got a quote and it was almost above 6. But they did go down. And so actually 2 weeks ago. So they have been going down. You can see it in the chart. You can see this little high right now, and it's kind of going down a little bit. That would be good, I think. Who knows? So next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about neighbors. I started the original podcast was about neighbors. Like, I always thought that was very, very important to a neighborhood. If you can't get along with your neighbors, you got a problem because you see them all the time. Every time you leave your house, you drive by your neighbor's house. That's a problem. If they're assholes, you're going to see it all the time. And so the podcast was based on neighbors, and I still think that's the core of the podcast. But, you know, I can only do so many stories about someone shooting their neighbor. That's not interesting. You know, I've done stories about a neighbor shooting their dog or killing their neighbor's dog. Okay. But after you've done like 2 or 3, it's not interesting. It's like, I don't know that I get desensitized to it. It's just like, it's been done before. You murder your neighbor. I've heard it. You kill your neighbor's dog. I've heard it. You kill your dog so that you don't hurt the neighbor. I've seen that. You kill your neighbor's dog because the neighbor's dog was trying to kill you or the neighbor. All that. Neighbor accidentally shot in an apartment complex. I mean, it was funny at first, but then it's like, it's an epidemic, it seems. Like once a month, someone gets shot in an apartment because the person below them or to the side of them wasn't practicing gun safety. Anyway, so it's hard to find stories that are of interest. And so I did manage to find one today. Would like to go over it with you. It says, worst neighbor ever. Feud escalates to tarp wall and sign pointing next door. Now, I think that's impressive. Now, there's some pictures of it. Okay. There's a sign that says worst neighbor ever. And then there's this, tarp up here. Now, I where is this? I don't even remember where this is. New York. It says I can't say that word. I'm sorry. Of the Hatfields and McCoys, a feud between next door neighbors that's grown out of control and has drawn the attention of everyone around. Neighbor 1, it's ridiculous. Neighbor 2, I don't know what sparked it or what happened, but it's now escalated to tarp and bad neighbor signs. Apparently they just don't get along, but to do this stuff, it's really not nice. Well, it says the battle between neighbors on 2 streets, Van Ryn and near Brown School, has turned into a community eyesore. It includes a man-made fence towering between the feuding neighbors. It says now the neighborhood has enough and turned to this station for help. It says between a great blue wall, a row of yellow slow down men and a sign out front proclaiming the worst neighbor ever. Folks living by aren't too happy. And so here you can see it's just terrible. Can you imagine living in this situation? Let's just say you call me as a real estate agent. I say, hey, I want to sell my house. Okay. And I just want you to understand, I've been in this situation. I had a neighbor run out and tell a potential buyer on one of my listings not to buy the house, that the house had conditions that it didn't even have. And she was actually a real estate agent herself, and she was a very bad person. And so she was lying, and I don't like her. I won't ever like her. And I know who she is, and she did a bad thing, and she is not on my friends list. Let's just put it that way. It says, everybody notices that the tarps, in my opinion, are way excessive. It says the scene in front of the artist has been there for weeks and finally prompted a complaint to our newsroom, which brought us out to the battlefield between a blue house and a yellow house, which is hard to miss because with everything going on outside. Now, look, news media has been all over the place. There's the national news, there's the local news. We saw in the reporting of the Michael Brown case here in St. Louis that when the nation gets a story, it just takes on a whole different bent. But in this particular story, what is the media trying to do, or what is the good thing? They're trying to shine a light, okay, on a bad situation and maybe help some people out. I think that's the good of media. That's what can be helpful. So it says one of the reporters went out and went to talk to the neighbors, and it said, you don't think it's very nice to put that sign up. So it says, I got to check this. It says, oh no, I'd be very offended if someone did that to me. The sign that says worst neighbor in the world lives there. It's funny, but it's not funny. Now look, I'm positive that it's not the worst neighbor in the world. Okay. The worst neighbor in the world is the one that kills you. Like, is that not obvious? I mean, so it's not the worst. And putting a sign out doesn't really, I mean, we have all kinds of signs in the neighborhood. So it says, it said the feud's been going on for 10 years. It started with a battle over property lines, which will start a fight all the time. Okay. Like, that's why when you're buying a house, like, let's just say you live in an established neighborhood, make sure that you get a survey, just because you don't want to deal with a fight over property lines. That is like fundamental. Now, do I always get a survey for an established area? No. Because what would be the point? Like, for me, it's like the title company will help in a problem as far as, paying for a lawyer, but sometimes closing costs are expensive. Sometimes you don't have the money. It says the neighbors involved wouldn't do an interview, but one talked to us off camera. He said the years-long feud was reignited about a month ago when the neighbor in the blue house started throwing peanuts to squirrels over the fence. That prompted the neighbor in the yellow house to put up a danger, no peanuts, food allergy sign, because he says his relative has peanut allergies. So number one, why would you throw peanuts to squirrels over the fence? Like, you're just being an ass. No offense, but seriously. And then why would you put a sign out that, like, these are people that are not good at solving conflict, right? Either they don't want to, or, there's something, but it's like, look, just, you live next together. And I know that's, like, even in my own subdivision, I've seen two neighbors get upset with each other and start with the signs stuff. I can confidently say that I'm not doing signs with any of my neighbors. It's just stupid. It's just stupid. And, a lot of things as I get older, I don't feel that strongly about it. I don't feel that strongly. I don't feel like that's something I need to do. But anyway, it says the other neighbor responded by putting up worst neighbor ever lives there sign, which is, again, like, is that really the worst neighbor in the world? There's no way. No way. No way. Then came the wall of tarps and those slow down soldiers. That's weird. The slow down things, by the way, they didn't have those a long time ago, and I'm okay with that. They're stupid. No offense. If you have one and you want to buy a house with me, that's fine. But other than that, it's like, people speed through neighborhoods and it's terrible. No question. Okay. In the city in St. Louis, some of the streets have like speed bumps, really nice ones though, not like the old kind. That's really great. That's really great. I think that's fine. They're not obtrusive. Like the old ones used to be like significant, but these are nice, like ramps, sort of. Very nice. And then it says, the yellow house neighbor claims police have called here been called more than 70 times due to the back and forth, which he said included one physical scuffle. So why, like, Why should you care about the police? Why should you care about your neighbors using up police resources? Number one, like, let's say there's an emergency at my house and I call the police. I expect them to come out and help me with the emergency, right? I mean, that's what I expect. They've come out to these houses 70 times, haven't fixed the problem. Seriously. Like, and that's not a shot at the police. It's what I'm saying is you expect one thing, okay, and then you're getting another. You're not getting success. You're just getting people coming out every time. And they're just using up. Now, look, you could say I paid for these resources. So, but how much did you pay for these resources? If you're the taxpayers, did you really pay for them to go out 70 times between two neighbors that can't get along? It says another neighbor upset by all this pulled over to talk, but was afraid to show her face. It's unacceptable. Needs to stop. It says, do you want the city to try and do something about this? Yes, that'd be great. That's what we pay taxes for. So this neighbor is saying, look, I pay taxes. Okay. You need to fix this, city. You need to fix this. And the city's like, well, I don't know what we're supposed to do to fix this. How do you get something fixed when there's no, like, I mean, is in any way, is it normal to put up a huge blue tarp fence? Now, I did read that Bill Gross and his neighbor on the Malibu shore did something similar to fight each other. But again, it's ridiculous. And then, so they showed the reporter showed the photos to the mayor, and he said he would get back to it. And then he told the reporter that you should talk to the building inspector. And then he said, when he got an email, he responded immediately. He said, the city had already responded once to the home back in 2019 over a complaint about the blue house putting up bird feeders and doing their business on the yellow house's roof. Now, literally, someone called the building department because bird feeders in one neighbor's yard the birds were then pooping on the other neighbor's roof. Now, I don't know. I mean, I'm impressed that they can, handle birds in that way. But I mean, gosh. And then it says, it's pretty bad when you have all the other neighbors complaining. It says, yeah, we care about the neighbors here and hopefully want to resolve this in a timely manner. It says the building inspector went out to the property after we brought this feud to his attention. He told Annie expected to issue citations, but after an investigation found that neither neighbor is in violation of the city zoning code. He's told by the city's corporation council that this is a civil matter. So, I mean, even when, and this is an argument against, government overreach in the sense that, look, even if you have rules, even if you have laws, okay, they're not going to cover everything. And so, in this case, we've got a serious issue in the sense that these people hate each other. One of them should move. You say, well, which one? I don't care. It just needs to stop. I'm not even impressed by the pranks. They're not even that interesting. It's just ridiculous. So anyway, I don't see what, it's not all, how do I say? You don't have to love your neighbor. It'd be nice if you did, I guess, but whatever. So that was interesting. So I thought that was interesting, but neighbors can annoy you in a number of different ways. And so I wanted to go over this article here. And it says, I thought it was, well, I don't know. It's okay. Here it is. It says ammonia spill at a Charleston property, atrocious for next door neighbor. Now, this is a different issue. This is an abandoned house issue. And I don't feel like there's a balance in the laws. Okay. I think vacant houses in general are not great. Okay. And I think that there should be some mechanism that says, look, this is the owner of record. We can't get into contact with them. You have like 2 months to get in contact, 60 days. Or if you don't get in touch with us, we can start, moving forward with, a process to gain the property back or something. Because, I mean, in many neighborhoods around the country, you could have like, say 10 houses that are in perfect shape, and then one abandoned house in the middle, and it's ruining the value of all those houses. And the people that live there, that paid their mortgages and live there, they don't deserve that. They don't deserve to be financially punished because of one person that may not even exist. They may be dead. So anyway, let's continue. It says, this is in West Virginia. It says, when Matt Ashworth bought his aunt's home in the 2000 block of Odell a year ago, he was ready to bring it to new life. I grew up in this house. This is a family house that my whole entire family grew up in. It was a special place in my family's heart, and we want to keep it in the family if possible. So he's a homeowner that wants to do the right thing. It says, what he did not expect was overgrown grass, boarded windows, and a strong smell of ammonia coming from the home next door. He said, nighttime, it's not so bad. Daytime, and the heat is atrocious. I can sit here on my porch, and I'm trying to do some remodeling here, trying to get my place picked up. I've had 2 contractors come to look at my house to fix the roof. They will not do it because of the smell. They're worried their guys will be exposed to the same kind of harmful situation. So, like, think about that. If you're a roofer, I mean, like, if you own a construction company, the smell of the house next door is so bad that you don't want your guys getting hurt. These people use saws and hammers and nails every day. Still, the smell is so bad. It's not good. It says, last week, the Charleston Fire Department performed an inspection for toxic inhalation compounds. This inspection report details some of the findings. Now, no offense. What is the fire department? Why are they stuck doing something? Like, shouldn't it be like the building inspectors or the building code? It says the report reads, there are several cats that scattered from under the porch and crawl space when we approached the property. A slight smell of ammonia was present as we approached the porch. A volatile organic compound detection machine was used outside the home, and it showed no response. However, when the detector was placed by a small opening at the side door of the home, the monitor showed a peak level of 172 parts per million and began to alarm. Ugh. Any long-term exposure to these levels would be dangerous to an individual inside the home. However, it is our opinion that it appears to be no immediate danger outside of the home. Well, who's living there? Like, that's the issue. Who owns the house? It says, according to Ashworth, city employees have been checking on the condition of the house. Tony Harmon, the Charleston building commissioner, which I think should be the person that's dealing with this problem, came by the house late Wednesday morning. He said he took Harmon towards his own air conditioning, where he says the smell coming from the house next door is most noticeable. Let's stand here. You start to smell it right now. And so let's stand here for about 20 minutes. Try to prove a point. There are no dangerous levels. Nobody can physically stand here and do that. That would be terrible. It'd be absolutely terrible. One time in my younger years, I worked in Detroit in the Eastern Market, and we were trying to get this. It was a commercial building. We were trying to get it together. Never did end up working out the way it should have. But anyway, it was right behind it was a meat rendering building. They would, in the morning, there would be cows and sheep that would go into the building, and then their little fur would end up coming out at the other side on a truck, and then they would take that to the dump. But the flies would be in the. It was absolutely terrible, and I don't think you would want to live there and see that daily. Anyway, he said, Harmon said, since the house is private property, the timeline gets complicated for taking the next steps. However, Ashworth said his patience is waning and the condition of the house is affecting his quality of life for him as a family. And I get that. We're in the process of getting a search warrant to get in the house to determine the condition of the house and whether it does need to be demolished or it can be saved. It's been posted unfit or unsafe for human habitation. So that's weird. He said, like, it's been posted unfit or unsafe for human habitation. habitation. But how did that get done when they didn't go in the house? It says he further explained the process the city must take. The city doesn't take over the building. It's still private property, and we still have to go through the process of dual nullification. And the property owner may want to fix up the house at a certain point in time after we've given them enough notice. We'll get a search warrant. We're doing all we can legally. We don't own the private. We don't own the house. The private ownership does. And I get that. I totally understand that. And we want our private property rights protected. Okay. If there was a bias, we want it to be on the protection of property rights versus the ability of the government to seize property. However, not to be a jerk, but man, we're in 2022. We have cameras on many stoplight, red light cameras. I mean, we have this technology that's amazing. We should be able to know who owns that house, and we should be able to get in touch with them. And they should have an amount of time to fix the house or move on. I mean, I don't know. It says, I understand someone's property. I understand the laws in effect. In a situation like this where the property is this extreme, I feel there should be a faster track. And he is right. He's 100% right. There should be a faster track. Why should we spend, hours and hours and hours, days and months and years? It says later Wednesday afternoon, workers contracted by the city came to tend to the lawn. They said the last time that there were houses in May, and I don't know where this article was. Article was in June. It says Harmon says he believes the warrant can be signed and executed by the end of the year. By the end of the year. It's July. You're looking at December. And once the city can enter the property, they plan to take a humane officer to check on the cats seen on the property. Well, no offense. This is another thing. So you have these cats. It can't be good. It cannot be good. It cannot be a good situation to have all these cats living in this house doing their business. If they are. You're going to wait until December to look and help these cats? That doesn't seem right. I would say I'm an animal lover. I like animals. I mean, I don't want bad things to happen to the cats. I mean, I get it. I'm not really a cat person, but I'm just saying I don't want anything bad to happen. I just feel like in a larger sense, I feel like some of the wounds in communities are self-inflicted. And by that, I mean, we just don't have the ability to solve problems. And I want to be, following the law. I don't want anything. I just want the law adjusted so that people and communities aren't harmed so much, so quickly. That's what I want. It takes 2 years to get a house, condemned. Seems like too long. Especially this guy, the neighbor, wants to fix the house up that he lives in. And he feels like he's being thwarted by that other house. I don't know. Anyway, I kind of wanted to go to 2 hours. I don't think I've ever done a 2-hour long live stream. Can you imagine? Can you believe I've done 2 hours and not one person has stopped to chat? Not one. What did we learn today? We've learned that Elon Musk is really, really good. Really, really good at getting his name in the news. I'm very, very bad at it because you can see here on this live stream, not one person has come to the live stream. So if Elon Musk tomorrow did a live stream, how many people would show up? I bet more than that would show up for mine. Sad face. We learned that, neighbors are so important. And then, not to go on a tangent, but look, when you buy a house, just from a real estate perspective, when you buy a house, that's your only chance to choose your neighbors. It's your only chance. Crappy neighbors can move in during your ownership. Nothing you can do about it. But when you first go to a house, you need to really pay attention to your neighbors. And you say, John, you say that, but you don't really mean it. Well, let me tell you something. There's a house in Bevo I was looking at 2 months ago with some buyers. The house itself wasn't bad. It wasn't great. I mean, there was a lot of deferred maintenance that was going to be necessary for the home to reach its full potential. But the neighbor next door was a hoarder. The entire yard in the back was filled with, cars and tarps and mechanical equipment, and just, you couldn't even walk back there. On the roof of the house, there were bees and birdhouses and all kinds of stuff. On the front of the house, there wasn't even that much yard, but it was all full of stuff. Okay. And then now this house is for sale next door. I told my buyers, I was like, no, I don't care about the price. The price doesn't matter. You're going to live next to this terrible mess until this person dies or moves out, and it doesn't look like they're going to do either for any time soon. It's just disgusting. And that is that when you move into a house and you notice that your neighbor is terrible beforehand and you still decide to move in, you're an idiot. How much is your peace of mind worth? Sorry, I have an itch. But how much is that worth? Is it worth $1,000? $2,000? $5,000? $10,000? You only live once, and now you're going to be living next to this mess. So I tell my buyers, no, this neighbor is terrible. Now, some people don't listen. The other thing is this, even though you don't want it, I don't like to be a part of anything. I'm not a big fan of collective. Always been kind of independent. What happens in a neighborhood, you must be with people that are like-minded enough to not destroy the value of your homes. It's bad. Let's just assume, let's just look at things. Let's say government policy comes in and says, we're going to screw up this neighborhood. For example, in Detroit, the argument has been oftentimes that the highways, the national highway system, destroyed some of the neighborhoods of Detroit because it caused, an 8-lane highway between the neighborhood, or in the middle of the neighborhood. It destroyed what made the neighborhood unique and made it special. That's the argument. But in the top line is the idea that the government caused this action. Okay. Believe it or not, that's fine. But you can also destroy it by the neighbors. Now, let's be honest. Some of the covenants, some of the way the houses were built, and some of the bad things, racial things that happened to destroy neighborhoods, redlining, things of this nature. Terrible. No excuse. That was also an issue. But then you have just simply a bad neighbor can really screw things up. I remember there was a house out in Oakville. Lady owned 150 cats. Cats, when there's that many of them, they start eating each other. They start dying and no one notices it. They pee all over the place. It's a terrible, terrible situation. Okay. There's something wrong with someone that has 150 cats. They need professional help, and they don't need to be living in a house with 150 cats. Now you say, John, who are you to tell someone else how many cats they can live with? Well, I'm telling you, 150 cats is too many. Like, it's not, one cat's not too many. 2 cats, probably not too many. 150 cats, too many. Too many. So, I mean, yeah, I guess I'm not allowed to, maybe I'm being arbitrary is what I'm saying. Maybe I'm being arbitrary. But anyway, look, your neighbors are important. The neighbors are very, very important. You don't have to be your best friend. The neighbor doesn't have to be your best friend. You don't have to give each other Christmas cards. No. But you do have to hope that they take care of their property so that your value isn't compromised. I mean, and that's just it. I mean, why would you put money in your home when your neighbor is destroying the value of your home and you have nothing you can do about it? It's just a very it's the way we live now. It's a very fascinating thing. And I will keep speaking out on neighbor issues. It doesn't make me like I'm not a good person. I'm not like my name should not be exalted because I talk about neighbors, and HOAs and things of that nature. It's just somebody needs to, because I don't think people realize how bad of a situation it is and continues to be. So with that, I feel like we had a pretty good talk today. It's a Saturday afternoon and we really went at it. Would have been fun if you were here. If you get a chance, please come on in. Come tomorrow. Come the next day. Hit the little bell notification. Maybe it'll actually work, and you'll know when I'm on. That's all I have, though. Thank you for watching. I'm going to head on out. Follow, like, subscribe, share. All those things would be great. Thank you, and goodbye.